Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome again to the Healthy Tech Talk Show. Today we're going to be talking to Brian Okeefe. Now, Brian is a friend of ours, and in 1979 he was stocking shelves for a grocery store, and he injured his back quite badly. And do you know that that man has suffered with that injury ever since 1979, and now it is 2012. So what he did was he pleaded with the doctors in Canada to find a solution for him. They said there's nothing we can do. They threw up their hands. He had to go all the way into the United States, and it is a fascinating story. As a matter of fact, I've got the story coming up next as to why Canada doesn't have this kind of technology and why they won't embrace it up here. You know, when we think of all the loss of wages and the loss of enjoyment of life, that you can go down and get it fixed in the States, but you can't get it in Canada. It seems like our medical system is primitive and backwards in some respects. So stay tuned. Here comes the interview with Brian, and you've got to listen to this interview. It is fascinating. See you then. Coming up next.
That is about 40% of the business is Canadians.
40% of the business is Canadians.
And when you think of what dollar amount that represents.
Well, no wonder they're coming up here and chasing Canucks.
Yep.
You know, really, seriously.
Lost income, though, where I couldn't walk. I was having all kinds of pain and discomfort.
So the fix that they gave you in Canada was actually making more of a...
It eventually ended up being the problem. Wow. Basically said, well, there's nothing we can do. If you need anything, you got to leave the country. This is after having x-rays and...
You've got to leave. That sounds so bizarre. If you need anything, you have to leave the country.
Yeah, absolutely. They couldn't do anything. I was getting worse.
One lady that they couldn't help, and they refunded her the money?
That's right.
I mean, where does that happen?
We've actually heard of two people with that situation. They couldn't help.
And they refunded the money?
Refunded the money, yes.
Isn't this nice? You didn't think you were going to be on a radio show today, did you?
I had no idea.
Ladies and gentlemen,
for a coffee and I get
you've ever had on the show called Brian Okeefe. Welcome to the show, my friend.
Hey, thanks, sir.
Brian Okeefe has been living in Manitoba, the land of the large mosquitoes. I think the mosquitoes are about this big.
I ended up having a spinal fusion.
Ow!
Yeah.
And that, just the word just hurts me.
Yes. And what they did due to a previous injury...
Yes.
They ended up fusing L4, 5, and S1.
Yes.
Which is in the lower back.
Yes.
And they took 3 vertebrae, and they basically fused them together. And
kind of sounds like a primitive thing, don't they? Like in the Canadian. Yeah. Let me just say that the Canadian medical system is broken, right?
It is.
When you compare it to the American?
Absolutely.
Okay, so go on with your story. I'm sorry to interrupt.
So, I was having issues with my left leg.
Yes.
They needed to put this in to stabilize my spine.
Yes.
And that's titanium.
Yes, it doesn't ring. I thought it was going to ring like, you know,
no, but
a wine glass.
I do go off at the airport. Seriously,
do you really?
I do. Yes, I do.
You don't anymore, do you? Because they took them off.
No, actually, I probably still will. Because
you have one on your tailbone?
2 more screws and 1 more rod.
A titanium tailbone.
Titanium,
I like it.
So I had a pin about that long.
Yes.
And these 3 screws, three screws like this.
In your back?
In my back.
For how long?
That surgery was in 96.
And it's 2012 now?
It's 2012 now.
Because it's 13 years, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Now, about 3 years ago, I was developing pain in my right leg.
Yes.
Which showed signs of an L5 injury.
Okay.
It was shutting down my leg. I was getting all kinds of pain and discomfort. The doctors in Winnipeg couldn't come to a decision as to what to do. Basically said, well, there's nothing we can do. If you need anything, you got to leave the country. This is after having x-rays and...
You've got to leave. That sounds so bizarre. If you need anything, you have to leave the country.
Yeah, absolutely. They couldn't do anything. I was getting worse. I was walking with a cane.
It's just so bizarre. Okay, so anyway, go on with your story, because I get so infuriated with the Canadian medical system. I mean, you got to wait for a CT scan for 5 months for crying out loud. You know?
Yeah.
But anyway,
about 2 years ago, a medical facility from the States came up.
Yeah.
And actually, every couple of years, they do a tour right across Canada.
And what are they called?
And they're called Laser Spine Institute.
LaserSpineInstitute.com?
.com.
Oh, okay.
Their corporate office is in Tampa, Florida.
Yes.
But they have surgical facilities across the States.
Yes.
They came up on a tour to introduce themselves. They had a medical team with them, and they basically gave a seminar as to what they do and who they could help. We were at one meeting We met with the doctors. They had asked us previously to bring any copies of the slides, the pictures, x-rays, letters, and reports from my doctor so they could see. They took a look at everything and said, we have been able to help other people with similar implants, okay, and to relieve the pressure on the nerve and to enable you to function again. Okay, so that was 2 years ago. We were very fortunate that we were able to go down this month, which was on the, we had our first appointment with them was the 10th of March? May.
March, May?
No.
Our wives are sitting right over there, so
May.
we've got a little bit of...
This is May, yes.
This is May.
The 10th of May, that's
May.
right. Okay.
You still on the happy juice there?
Not anymore, no. The 10th of May.
Yeah.
So we met with them on the 10th, and they decided to book me in for surgery on the 14th.
So you met with, wait, you met with them in Manitoba on the 10th?
No, we actually went down to Scottsdale. And we had the surgical, they looked, they gave me an MRI.
Yeah.
I also had to have a myelogram with a CT scan, which didn't really show too much, because when you've got this kind of hardware sitting in you, what's going to happen? It's going to
bounce all around.
Bounce off.
Sure.
Okay? The surgeon come to us and said, you have an L5 injury that's showing up on the leg. So what we need to do is to remove the screws, because they were situated right at L5,
right,
so we could see what needs to be done.
Right.
There's going to be two outcomes. Either we remove the screws and then we can see what we need to do, or by taking out the screws, it's going to solve the problem.
Right.
Okay, let's take out the screws. It was the problem.
The screws was the problem.
The screws were the problem. The screws and the bone had started growing, the screws didn't grow, but the bone grew, to where it was just shutting off my right leg.
Wow.
Where I couldn't walk. I was having all kinds of pain and discomfort.
So the fix that they gave you in Canada was actually making more of a...
It eventually ended up being the problem for the right leg.
No kidding.
Yep.
So tell me about the service that you got down there. Like,
wow.
You just said it was off the charts.
This is absolutely off the charts. This is a private facility. We have nothing like it up here in Canada. It's a day surgery. All right, they do not have anybody stay overnight.
So you stay in a hotel?
You stay in a hotel.
A really swanky hotel.
It's a very nice hotel, the Weinman Hotel, right there in Scottsdale. It is actually within walking distance of the Laser Spine Institute, but they have a shuttle. They just take the shuttle back and forth. There's no charge for it. And the first day, they do all the pre-op. They give you the blood test, the MRIs, the X-rays. In my particular case, an EKG. The second day, you sit down and talk with the. Who did we speak to, Diana? The second day, that would have been.
One of the physicians technicians. It was the.
That's right.
Physicians technicians.
Physicians technicians. The anesthesiologists come in and talk to you.
And they were very professional, right?
Absolutely, 100%. The day of the surgery, we couldn't have asked for anything better. They treated us well. This is what we're going to do. When they gave us the offer of taking the screws out, or this is what we've discovered, we got to take the screws out. It was great. Surgery was only 4 hours. On my particular case, it was a little longer than normal, and they actually came out in 2 hours and said to you, they're in there pretty good. And it's going to take a little bit. Yeah, the screws. The screws were in there too tight. So it's just going to take us a little bit longer to get them all out.
And they use a laser to do this, though, right?
I don't know.
Or did they?
I think at this particular point, the surgical equipment they use.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's a Dremel.
A Dremel? I have a Dremel.
Well, not the same kind. This is a hospital-grade, a surgical-grade Dremel. Well, they did. But when you take a look at where's the camera? Oh, you can't see it.
Yeah, sure you can. Here,
when you take a look, oops.
See?
This is quite interesting as to what they actually did.
Oops.
Oh, there we go.
These are big screws. Let's not fool around here. These are large.
They did an X-ray afterwards, and on the X-ray afterwards, you can actually see the thread in the bone.
Oh.
That I know it sounds gross, but you could actually see the thread in the bone when they unscrew this thing.
Goodness.
And you can all see it.
So you initially have your life back, right?
I do. I can stand up. I can walk. I have no discomfort in the leg. And this is now 14 days post-op. Okay, let me... The first day after surgery is a day of rest.
Yeah.
We had 2 other days. We stayed.
Yeah.
So on the 4th day, we drove from Scottsdale, Arizona to Palmdale, California, which is north of San Bernardino. Okay. That was the first day. That's about a 7-hour drive.
That's 6.5 hours.
6.5 hour drive. Okay. I was able to do the whole thing. Got out of the car. No discomfort. The second day we drove from there to Redding, California, which is up the north end of the state. And then from there to Portland, and then Portland into Vancouver, Canada.
And no pain, no discomfort.
I'm fine.
That is incredible.
Absolutely.
So how long have you suffered with this?
This time round, the last 3 years.
No, but I mean, all of us, all told, right?
Well, I injured myself initially back in back in 79.
79.
I used to work for Safeway, and I blew a disc out working on the graveyard shift, stacking shelves.
And you've had back trouble ever since?
Ever since.
And this is the first time in your life since 79, and this is 2012, that you've had any kind of relief?
Anytime, that's right.
I mean, the last time I saw you, you were on the floor, writhing in pain. That's my only memory of you, or squirming around like
the only time that I could relax is lie on the floor and get my legs up on a chair.
Yeah.
Lie on the floor, get my legs up on
we had to visit with you, and you were horizontal the whole time. It was kind of strange.
That's how I function.
But what you're saying is that the medical system up here is just so primitive and broken compared to what they've got down there. It's like night and day.
Well, when we were down there was another couple from Manitoba, just outside of Winnipeg. We met with them. They were having a similar type of surgery, and the day of my surgery, there was another couple leaving, and they were from Vancouver Island. And again, he had lower back surgery, and he was happy. He says, "This is great. He should have done it years ago."
And we're not going to say how much it cost, but I'm not going to get into that. But for the price of a new base model car, you could get that
surgery.
Yeah, it's incredible, and that includes the hotel room, the food, everything, right?
And the procedure. And that's basically the accommodation for 2 people.
You were telling me, and you were telling me that there was one lady that they couldn't help, and they refunded her the money.
That's right.
I mean, where does that happen?
We've actually heard of 2 people with that situation. They couldn't help.
And they refunded the money.
Refunded the money. Yes.
So tell me something. Your opinion. Why don't they offer this kind of service in Canada? Like, what's the reason?
I have no idea. I mean, it's not as if the technology isn't available, because it's available across the line.
Yeah.
The only thing I can think of is the cost, and they don't want to bring it up.
And these guys, the spinal people, have come into Canada and said, I'm going to approach the Canadian government, and the Canadian government says, no,
don't want to do it.
No kidding.
Well, otherwise they would have done it. They told us 2 years ago in Winnipeg when we were talking to them. They have approached Ottawa. They have approached the Minister for Health. And it hasn't gone anywhere.
Why, when you have that many people suffering, why would you not want to do that?
I don't know. When we met with them in Winnipeg, by the way, at the hotel, they were doing a seminar. There had to have been at least 60 people in the room.
One room, one city.
In one room in one city. They had 2 seminars a day for 2 days. They had a morning and an evening seminar over a 2-day period. And for the morning that we were there had to be just over 60 people that came in with a back-related issue that did not get any satisfaction out of the Canadian medical system.
Wow.
And they were looking at another alternative. And we were told at that time that it's about 40% of their business is Canadians.
40% of their business is Canadians.
And when you think of what dollar amount that represents...
Well, no wonder they're coming up here and chasing Canucks.
Yep.
You know, really, seriously.
Lost income, though, for Canadians.
Well, see,
and all the rest of it.
That's exactly the thing.
It's just, yeah.
That's exactly, you have now, you couldn't, you could, well, you made a living, you were cleaning computers, you had a really vibrant business, but there were days and weeks where I
just couldn't function.
You could not.
And it got to the point where if you can't walk and you can't function, what do you do with your business? So you have to close the business down. Nobody wants to buy a business if it doesn't have a cash flow.
Sure.
And I ran out of cash flow, so I had to close down the business.
You know, this is an amazing story. This is a story that is too important just to let sleep.
Mhm.
So you've promised me that you're going to write an ebook about your situation, right? Absolutely. You know, because people are hungry for this kind of
I'll
stuff.
give you a signed copy.
And you have to do that because people are hungry for this stuff because they want to know alternatives and they're desperate. And if say, I mean, you and I are not spring chickens, right? But if you've got your life back and you can work another 15, 20 years, that's huge. That's amazing.
That is.
Isn't it?
Absolutely.
And even think of the young people that have this kind of challenge where they have 40 years to go or 50
There's so
years
many
to go.
people, and the young people nowadays, you know, when I see people on the skateboards and on their bikes and stuff doing these tricks and stuff, and they land wrong.
Oh, and you just think,
what do they land on?
Yeah,
they land on
they're-
their tailbone.
yeah.
They land on their butt.
Yeah.
It's like, it might not hurt today, but give it 20 years, give it 25 years down the road.
yeah.
You know what? We don't bounce the way we used to when we were kids.
You know, you could write an entire book this thick on just pain management, pain control, what you went through just for the pain aspect of it, right?
Yep. And it is, they have literally given me a new lease on life. Like my wife jokingly says, Brian 3.0.
Wow.
I was too
That's
young
amazing.
to be this old.
Yeah, I like what you said. You're too young to be this old.
I would walk with a cane,
Yeah.
I'd walk hunchback,
Yeah.
I'd walk with a limp,
Yeah.
and I looked like I was 80 years old. I'm nowhere near there, right?
Now,
Absolutely
you have to
right.
check with the wife.
Got to check
I've
with
got to do that.
Okay, got to
What
check with
time
what
is it?
time is
Where did we
I
go?
don't wear a watch anymore.
You ever notice this when you're a single guy? You know where to drive everywhere. You
Yep.
don't need a map.
Yep.
As soon as you're married, you cannot get out of your driveway yourself. Honey, where do I go? Do I turn right or left
Where
here?
do I
Does that
go?
happen?
Yep.
Yeah.
But it was a wonderful experience. They treated you royally down there. The hotel, because they billet people out to the hotel, probably 70% of the hotel was actually patients for the Laser Spine Institute. But they just treated you absolutely wonderful. The hotel as well as the facility, the surgical facility.
You could write you know, this is so fantastic because you could write of your experience and what you went through, how to handle it, the ins and outs, you know? It's like we bought a car in the United States and we saved big money, like way over $10,000.
Yep.
We could write a book on how to buy a car, and you've got to write this book. You have got to write this ebook.
You hear this, Diana?
No, because I'm serious. This was a very, very important thing because you know what I would do with that ebook of yours? I would go up to Ottawa and bang on the door and say, "Here, have a look at this. This is an ebook, and this is what we need to have in Canada." You know, like smarten up, wake up.
Diana wrote an article. I don't know how many pages it was, but a few years ago in Winnipeg, we were kind of consultants to Manitoba Disability
Really?
type. And what we did was we put together from Diana's perspective what a back injury does to the family.
Oh, that's very good.
And it actually ended up being included in the workers' compensation manual
Really?
for disability in the workplace.
Well, then you've got to include that in this book here. Because it's a family thing, you know, how it affected the pain and the suffering. And
People don't realize, they think, okay, you know what, it's just me with the injury. But
Yeah.
no, you're
it
affected.
affects.
You're affected.
Sure,
Kids are
sure,
affected.
absolutely.
The whole all your friends are affected.
Yeah,
They
your
don't hang
circle of
around a
influence.
person that's in pain and grumpy all the time.
Yeah.
Trust me, I know. They don't want to hang
Yeah.
around you. Right? give me another glass of wine.
No kidding.
You know, so
That's amazing. Now, do you have an email address, right?
Yes, we do.
What is your email address?
Brian, BRIAN, and AND, Diana, DIANNA, at MTS.net. MTS stands for Manitoba Telephone Systems.
Oh,
so
yeah.
MTS.net.
We see those advertisements because we've got satellite TV and we see those MTS with the buffalo.
Modi the bison.
What's the deal with the buffalo in
Because
Manitoba?
they have them there.
Why? They've got so many freaking buffalo. What do you do with them? Do you eat them? Do they
Actually,
hook them up to plows? Can you?
No. Buffalo meat.
Buffalo meat is good, but what else do they do with buffalo?
I don't know. They just got farms of them.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Very
Wild
good.
turkeys. They got a lot of wild turkeys out there too.
Really?
Yeah.
I used to pick turkeys when I was going.
These are wild turkeys.
Wild turkeys.
Yeah.
So you go shoot them?
Yeah,
They must taste good.
Oh, wild turkeys are excellent.
Yeah? Now you can go hunting for wild
Yeah,
turkeys.
go hunting. I don't know. I might try golf because I've never golfed before.
You know what? That would be a great thing for you. You've never golfed, and you can golf now.
Well, I don't know. I've never tried.
But you should start keeping a diary of what you couldn't do, which was almost everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
For a two-legged
about
individual.
everything.
And now what you can do. Keep a diary and include that in your book. This is life. You know what? If you help one person with this ebook, it's enough, right? Just one person.
Yeah.
And I think you should be a spokesman for the spinal.
When you hear some of the stories of people down there.
Yeah.
The hotel general manager was telling us, when she found out we were from Canada and stuff, and she was telling us she's seen absolute miracles. People would go in on a stretcher and they'd walk out.
Really?
I mean, it gives you goosebumps.
Yes.
You don't think that something like this is real.
Yes.
Until you actually go through the system and you see, hey, this is real. And these people do care.
Oh.
I've had, on the way back, on the drive up, I've already had, 3 phone calls? En route. How are you doing?
Oh.
How's your pain? Are you able to do this? How can you do this? How can you do that?
No kidding.
Three phone calls on the drive up.
I might just check that out, too, with my neck the way it is.
Well, I'll tell you, it doesn't cost anything to get online.
To have an assessment.
And to talk to them, 1-800, okay, or to email 1-800. Look at some of the videos, because they'll show you the procedures they do.
Yeah.
And you can, all the testimonies.
Fantastic. I have a feeling you're going to be an excellent spokesman and ambassador for these guys up in Canada.
Well, thank you very much, Rick.
Brian, it has been a pleasure to have you on the show.
Absolutely.
Come back again soon, huh?
All right.
Rick Haaland for Uncle Ricky Radio, and this is also going to be aired on our Healthy Tech Talk show, because that is really, really important for all the people that with spinal injuries and stuff.
Okay.
And then we'll put your email address on the bottom third. Oh, I'm so excited for you.
All right.
I can't wait for that ebook. All right, folks, we'll see you next show.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Take care.